Good morning. Once again, welcome back, dear students. In the last class, we saw the protagonist of the story got wet himself halfway to the knees. He was totally vexed as he cannot get into the camp with the boys at 6 o'clock as pre planned. He decided to build another fire, for which he made the foundation with large branches of the trees. He also was well aware when the temperature is 75 below zero, a man must not fail in his first attempt to build the fire, especially if his feet are wet. Open page number 43, second last paragraph. Page number 43, second last paragraph. All this the man knew. The old timer on Sulphur Creek had told him about it the previous fall, and now he was appreciating the advice. Already, all sensation had gone out of his feet. To build the fire, he had been forced to remove his mittens, and the fingers had quickly gone numb. His pace of 4 miles an hour had kept his heart pumping blood to the surface of his body and to all the extremities. But the instant he stopped, the action of the pump ceased down. The cold of the space smote the unprotected tip of the planet, and he, being on that unprotected tip, received the full force of the blow. The blood of his body recoiled before it. The blood was alive like the dog, and like the dog, it wanted to hide away and cover itself up from the fearful cold. So long as he walked 4 miles an hour, he pumped that blood willy-nilly to the surface, but now it ebbed away and sank down into the recesses of his body. The extremities were the first to feel its absence. His wet feet froze the faster, and his exposed fingers numbed the faster, though they had not yet begun to freeze. Nose and cheeks were already freezing, while the skin of all his body chilled as it lost its blood. All this the man knew. The man was well aware when his feet are wet, and if he fails in the first attempt to make the fire, he will be risking his life. All these points he was quite aware of. He was well aware of them. And the old timer, the old person on Sulphur Creek, had told him about it the previous fall. Previous fall means previous snowfall. During the time of the previous snowfall, the old person at the Sulphur Creek has informed him regarding this matter, and now he was appreciating his advice, though he was unhappy with the old man on those days. But at present, when he realizes that whatever the old man on Sulphur Creek has told him is exactly what is happening to his life, he started appreciating the advice. Already, all sensation had gone out of his feet. His feet lost the complete sensation. They have turned to be numb now. To build the fire, he had been forced to remove his mittens, and the fingers had quickly gone numb. Already his feet are totally numb. And in order to make the fire for the second time, he has to remove his mittens. And as he removed, the moment he started removing the mitten, they have also turned to be numb. His pace of 4 miles an hour had kept his heart pumping blood to the surface of his body and to all the extremities. His pace of 4 miles an hour had kept his heart pumping blood to the surface of his body and to all the extremities. Yes, his pace, the walking speed, he was moving so fastly. His pace of 4 miles an hour That is what he had already planned, 4 miles an hour. With that same speed as he was walking, he had kept his heart pumping blood to the surface of his body. And that speed maintained the pumping of blood in the heart accurately, and it reached the surface of the body and to all the extremities. Extremities over here means the furthest point, the edges, maybe the fingertips, the nose, and all those extremities part of the body. The blood has reached easily as he was walking with such a pace, that is 4 miles an hour. But the instant he stopped, the action of pump ceased down. But the instant he stopped, the action of pump ceased down. The instant he stopped the speed, the walking speed, he slowed down now. Then what happened as a consequence? The action of pump ceased down. Pumping the blood in the heart also ceased down. When he was walking for 4 miles an hour, blood passed properly the all parts of his bodies, even to the extremities. Now, as he reduced his walking speed, or as he stopped at the present moment, even the pumping of the blood has also stopped. The cold of the space more the smart over here means started hitting the unprotected tip of the planet, and he, being on that unprotected tip, received the full force of the snow, of the blow of snow, as he was in an unprotected part of the country, unprotected part of the universe. So the cold wind started hitting him as well. The blood of his body recoiled before it. It started falling back. Before the blood reaches to all the parts of the body, the blood once again recoiled before it reaches to all the parts of the body, especially to the extremities. And the blood was alive like the dog, and like the dog, it wanted to hide away and cover itself up from the fearful cold. Exactly like the cold wanted to hide itself away from the extreme cold weather. In the same way, the writer says that the blood in his body did not want to expose itself towards the extreme cold weather. Once again to that part, the blood was alive. And like the dog, the comparison given over here, like the dog, and like the dog, it wanted to hide away and cover itself up from the fearful cold. It wanted to hide itself totally away from the fearful cold. As long as he walked 4 miles an hour, he pumped that blood willy-nilly to the surface. Willy-nilly over here means very randomly. He was able to pump out the blood. The heart was able to pump out the blood randomly to the surface. But now it ebbed down. Now that pumping has ebbed down. It has declined and sank down into the recesses of the body. And it moved back towards the spaces of the body. Instead of going to all the parts of the body, the blood started recessing towards the body, spacing back towards his body. And the extremities were the first to feel its absence. The absence of the blood was felt mainly by the extremities, the extreme part of the bodies, especially the edges of the bodies, the furthest point of the bodies, as I already told, maybe the exposed nose as well as the fingertips. His wet feet froze the faster, and his exposed fingers numbed the faster, though they had not yet begun to freeze. Even though they have not begun to freeze, but at the same time, they have turned to the feet as well as his exposed fingers. The fingers that are exposed to the extreme cold weather, because he had already removed the mittens in order to make the fire, numbed the faster. They have turned to be without any sensation very fast, though they had not yet begun to freeze. Till now, they have not begun to freeze. Nose and cheeks were already freezing, while the skin of all his body chilled as it lost its blood. The blood was not pumping out properly, and because of which the skin of all his body chilled as it lost its blood. Since the blood circulation was not taking place properly, the skin started chilling down. But he was safe. Toes and nose and cheeks would be only touched by the frost, for the fire was beginning to burn with strength. He was feeding it with the twigs the size of his finger. In another minute, he would be able to feed it with branches the size of his wrist, and then he could remove It removed his wet footgear, and while it dried, he could keep his naked feet warm by the fire, rubbing them at first, of course, with snow. The fire was a success. He was safe. He remembered the advice of the old timer on Sulphur Creek and smiled. The old timer had been very serious in laying down the law that no man must travel alone in the Klondike after 50 below. Well, here he was. He had had the accident. He was alone and he had saved himself. Those old timers were rather womanish, some of them, he thought. All a man had to do was to keep his head and he was all right. Any man who was a man could travel alone. But it was surprising the rapidity with which his cheeks and nose were freezing. And he had not thought his fingers could go lifeless in so short a time. Lifeless they were, for he could scarcely make them move together to grip a twig, and they seemed remote from his body and from him. When he touched a twig, he had to look and see whether or not he had hold of it. The wires were pretty well down between him and his finger ends. But he was safe. Though his fingers were turning to be totally numb, at the same time his life was safe. That is what he says. He was safe. Toes and nose and cheeks would be only touched by the frost. The entire part of the body is not going to be affected by the frost at all. He feels that it is his toes and nose and cheeks would be only touched by the frost, for the fire was beginning to burn with strength, because the fire started burning faster. So because of which he felt that his life is not in risk at all. He was feeding it with the twigs the size of his finger. In the beginning, we know that he was feeding with the small twigs. Now he started increasing the size of the twigs. He was feeding it with the twigs the size of his finger. In another minute, he would be able to feed it with the branches the size of his wrist. As the time passes, he feels that he would be able to make use of bigger pieces of twigs. And then he could remove his wet footgear, and once the fire is proper, he feels that he would be able to remove his wet footgear. He would be able to remove his shoes, and while it dried, he could keep his naked feet warm by the fire, rubbing them at first, of course, with the snow. First, he would be rubbing his feet with the snow after removing the shoes, and after that he would be warming his feet with the help of the fire that would be burning brightly. The fire was a success. He was safe. He remembered the advice of the old timer on Sulphur Creek and smiled. The fire certainly was success. He was able to build the fire properly and he was very happy with it. He was safe. Now he understood that no danger in his life at all, because the fire burns brightly now, and he would be able to dry his footgear, he would be able to warm his body, and he will be able to restart his journey. That is what he was feeling. He was safe. He remembered the advice of the old timer. Once again, he recollected the advice given by the elderly person. That is what old timer here means, that an elderly man on the Sulphur Creek and smiled. He remembered about the advice given by the old person on the Sulphur Creek, and he started smiling, thinking about the advice he received from him. The old timer had been very serious in laying down. Lay down over here means to bring forth. He was very serious when he started advising me the law that no man must travel alone in the Klondike after 50 below. That is what was his advice to me. No man must work all alone when the temperature is below 50 in the Klondike region. Klondike actually is the river region in the Yukon Territory of Canada. It's a river region, and in this river region almost all the river turned to be filled with snow and ice. That could be the reason the old timer has told him no individual should walk alone through this region, that is the Klondike region, after the temperature turns to be below 50 degrees. That is what was the advice given by the old timer. And thinking about the advice given by this old man, the protagonist started smiling. Well, here he was. He had had the accident and he was alone and he had saved himself. He feels that whatever the man told was not right as far as he is concerned. That is what he says. Well, here he was. Now, at the present moment, he is under such a kind of situation where the temperature is below 50 degrees Celsius. He had had the accident. Certainly, he had the accident. Certainly, he had the problem to face with, and he was all alone. That is what the old timer has told. When the temperature is below 50 degrees Celsius, no man should walk through this region. Now I am all alone. Temperature is much lower than that of 50 degrees Celsius. Certainly I had the accident, but I am safe. That is what the protagonist feels here. He was alone and he had saved himself. Even though he was all alone, he knew how to save himself. I am safe from my side. That is what. So therefore, he feels that the advice given by the old timer is not appropriate as far as he is concerned. Those old timers were rather womanish. Womanish in the sense that they are not bold enough at all. They have no courage at all. That is what he speaks here. Those old timers, those old people were rather womanish. Some of them, he thought, some of these old people are womanish. They do not have the courage at all. They are not bold enough at all. At least some of them are not bold enough. That is why they say, when the temperature is below 50 degrees Celsius, no man should walk alone in the Klondike region. So they are very, very fearful people. And that is the reason they are addressed by the protagonist as womanish. All a man had to do was to keep his head and he was all right. What is the meaning of to keep one's head? Keep one's head means to remain calm. Keep one's head, that is an idiom which brings out the meaning of remaining calm. Remain calm. So once again, all a man had to do was to keep his head and he was all right. If the person is able to be calm under any kind of situation, there will be no danger at all. That is what the protagonist says. There is nothing to worry about. When such kind of difficult situation a person reaches into, if he is able to remain calm, there will be no danger in his life at all. All a man had to do was to keep his head and he was all right. Any man who was a man could travel alone. Any man who was a man addressed here as who is bold enough, not womanish at all. If a person is courageous and bold enough, any man who was a man could travel alone. If a man is strong enough, he will be able to work all alone, whatever the circumstance might be. But it was surprising the rapidity with which his cheeks and nose were freezing. But it certainly was surprising. Within no time, the rapidity with which his cheeks and the nose were freezing. Within no time, the nose as well as the cheeks turned to start freezing. And he had not thought his fingers could go lifeless in so short a time. The protagonist has never thought in his life with such a short span of time the fingers will go lifeless. Lifeless they were, for he could scarcely make them move together to grip a twig, and they seemed remote from his body and from him. He felt that lifeless they were. His fingers turned to be lifeless, he felt, for he could scarcely make them move together to grip. He wanted to hold the twigs, and he felt that he is not in a position to grip them together, in order to move them together, in order to grip the twig, and they seemed remote. Remote over here means they seemed to be totally disconnected from the body. He felt that his fingers are totally disconnected from the body and from him. His fingers are totally separated from his body. That is what he felt. When he touched a twig, he had to look and see whether or not he had hold the twig. The moment he caught hold of the twig, He had to look into it to see that whether he has grabbed them properly, because he did not have any sensation for his fingers at all. He had to look and see. He had to look and see whether or not he had hold of it. He was uncertain whether he has caught hold of the twigs with the help of his fingers. The wires were pretty well connected between him and his finger ends, and he realized that the wires over here means the connections to the body, maybe the veins, etc. That is used for connecting different parts of the body together. The wires were pretty well down between him and his finger ends, and once he looked and see, then only he realized that his fingers are connected together with his body, all of which counted for little. There was a fire, snapping and crackling and promising life with every dancing flame. He started to untie his moccasins. They were coated with ice. The thick German socks were like sheets of iron halfway to the knees, and the moccasin strings were like rods of steel, all twisted and knotted as by some conflagration. For a moment, he tugged with his numb fingers, then realizing the folly of it, he drew his sheath knife, all of which counted for little. Everything went well for some time. Everything was perfectly all right. He was able to make the fire. He was able to warm his body up. All this was possible for some period of time. Let's see what happened after that. All of which counted for little. Everything went well for some period of time. There was a fire, snapping and crackling. The fire started producing such a kind of snapping sound as well as crackling and promising life, encouraging life to the man. As the fire started burning brightly, it was a promising for the man, promising life, encouraging him to have the life with every dancing flame. As the flame started moving by the wind, it started, the writer says, the dancing flame. The flame started moving, and that was an encouragement for the man. It was a life-giving aspect for the man. And he started to untie his moccasin. He thought of removing his shoes. He started to untie his moccasins. They were coated with ice. The entire part was filled almost with ice. The moccasin were coated with ice. The thick German socks. So he was wearing a kind of a very, very thick sock, a thick German sock. The thick German socks were like a sheath. They were something like the protective covers for, that is what the meaning of sheaths. Sheath means the protective covering of iron halfway to his knees. It was something like iron protecting halfway of his knees. First he removed the moccasin, and he realizes that the German socks that he wore resembled like a protective sheath of iron, something like an iron sheath halfway to the knees. That was the way his knees were well protected by these German socks. And the moccasins strings were like rods of steel. Now he feels that the lace of the shoe, that is the moccasin strings over here means the lace, were like rods of steel. They were very strong because of the extreme weather. They have turned it to be like that of rods of steel, all twisted and knotted as by some conflagration. Conflagration means something like a conflict, something like a war. They were twisted together, knotted together as if there was a war taking place. That was the way it resembled. For a moment, he tugged with his numb fingers. He tried to untie it with his fingers. And remember, numbed fingers. Fingers had totally lost its sensation. Then realizing the folly of it, and he understood that it is quite foolishness to untie the shoelace with the help of his fingers, which are totally numb now. So realizing the folly of it, he drew his sheath knife. Sheath knife over here means his knife attached with a blade. Knife is attached with a blade. Such kind of knives are called the sheath knife. Now he thought of untying the shoelace that turned to be like the rods of steel. That is what the writer says. that turned to be rods of steel, and trying to untie it with the help of his fingers which are numb, he felt that it is a foolishness. So therefore he took out his sheath knife in order to cut and open the shoes. But before he could cut the strings, it happened. It was his own fault, or rather his mistake. He should not have built the fire under the spruce tree. He should have built it in the open. But it had been easier to pull the twigs from the brush and drop them directly on the fire. Now, the tree under which he had done this carried a weight of snow on its boughs. No wind had blown for weeks, and each bough was fully fated. Each time he had pulled a twig, he had communicated a slight agitation to the tree, an imperceptible agitation so far as he was concerned, but an agitation sufficient to bring about the disaster. High up in the tree, one bough capsized its load of snow. This fell on the boughs beneath, capsizing them, and this process continued, spreading out and involving the whole tree. It grew like an avalanche, and it descended without warning upon the man and the fire, and the fire was blotted out. Where it had burned was a mantle of fresh and disordered snow. But before he could cut the string, it happened. He tried to cut the string of his moccasin with the help of his sheath knife. That is what he had already decided. He tried to open it with the help of his numb fingers, and he understood that it is a foolishness. Therefore, he took out the sheath knife in order to cut the string. Then what happened? Before he could do that, it happened. It was his own fault, or rather his mistake. The writer says that it was his fault, or better to say that it was his mistake. He should not have built the fire under the spruce tree. Actually, this man had made the fire under the spruce tree, and he should have built it in the open. The fire should have been built in the open area. It should not have been built under the tree. That is what he says, that it was a foolishness or the mistake committed by the man, that he made the fire. He built the fire just under the spruce tree. But it had been easier to pull the twigs from the brush. He must have made the fire without thinking anything, made the fire under the tree, thinking that he would be able to get the twigs, the branches of the trees from the forest, from the brush. Brush here means from the nearby forest land, and drop them directly on the fire. He felt that he will be able to drop the twigs easily into the fire from the forest if the fire is made the place where he has already made the fire. Now the tree under which he had done this carried a weight of snow on its boughs. The branches of the trees were filled with large pieces of snow. They were carrying the big pieces of snow, and no wind had blown for weeks, because there was no wind at all for almost 4 weeks, and each bough was fully freighted. Freighted over here means totally loaded with the snow. Each branch of the tree, the spruce tree, was loaded with large pieces of snow. Now what happened? Each time he had pulled a twig, he had communicated a slight agitation to the tree. Each moment he was placing the twig into the fire, it was almost like an agitation. Agitation over here means an aversion, a kind of angry attitude towards the tree. An imperceptible means unnoticeable. An agitation which was unnoticeable by the man so far as he was concerned, but an agitation sufficient to bring about the disaster. But this agitation of the tree, this anger of the tree was sufficient to bring out a great disaster. The man really had made a mistake. while building the fire. He should have built the fire in an open area, but here he built the fire. He built the fire under a tree, under the spruce tree, and since there were no wind at all for weeks, that is what the writer says here, the branches of the tree was overloaded with large pieces of ice and snow. Each moment he was placing the twig into the fire, the writer says that the man was challenging the tree. It was something like an agitation to the tree, and such a kind of agitation it was that was sufficient to bring out such a great disaster in the life of the person here. High up in the tree, one bough capsized its load of snow. This fell on the boughs beneath, capsizing them. Yes, high up in the tree, one of the branches, one bough capsized its load of snow. Capsized means it overturned the load of snow. The large pieces of snow fell down as the fire started burning just under the tree. The snow slowly started melting it, and a large piece of snow fell down. Load of snow fell down, and this fell on the boughs beneath, capsizing them. And what happened? When from one branch the large piece of snow that fell down, it fell on the another branches beneath, capsizing them and overturning them. And not only one branch of snow, one piece of snow that has fallen down, when it fall down, it fell on the another large piece of snow as well, and capsizing them. This process continued, spreading out and involving the entire tree. It went on. This process of snow falling down continued for a longer period of time, involving the entire tree, and it grew like an avalanche. Avalanche means falling off large pieces of snow, no? Something like an avalanche, and it descended without warning upon the man and the fire. Without giving any warning to the man as well as the fire, it started falling down, and the fire was blotted out, and the complete fire was put out. It was totally extinguished. The fire got extinguished. Where it had burned was a mantle of fresh and disordered snow. The place where the man had made the fire, the man built the fire, it had burned was a mantle of fresh and disordered snow. It resembled like the group of, mantle of over here means group of fresh and disordered snow. The man was shocked. It was as though he had just heard his own sentence of death. For a moment, he sat and stared at the spot where the fire had been. Then he grew very calm. Perhaps the old timer on Sulphur Creek was right. If he had only had a trail mate, he would have been in no danger now. The trail mate could have built the fire. Well, it was up to him to build the fire over again, and this second time there must be no failure. Even if he succeeded, he would most likely to lose some toes. His feet must be bodily frozen by now, and there would be some time before the second fire was ready. The man was totally shocked. The man was wonderstruck. The man was shocked. It was as though he had just heard his own sentence of death, as if he felt that he hears his own death sentence. That was, he realized that he is not going to survive under such a kind of temperature now. As if a person hears his own death sentence, that was a feeling the man was undergoing at the present moment. For a moment, he sat and stared at the spot where the fire had been. He stared at the place where he had already built the fire. Then he grew very calm. Perhaps the old timer on Sulphur Creek was right. Now he realizes the old man at the Sulphur Creek, on the Sulphur Creek, whatever he said, his statement was right. Earlier he smiled. He made fun of the man. That is what made him to smile at. A person cannot stand all alone when the temperature is below such a 50 degrees centigrade. That is what the old man said. And he smiled at him. Now he realizes that the old man, the old timer on Sulphur Creek perhaps was right. If he had only had a trial mate, now he realizes that had a friend be with me, had a track mate with me, had a companion with me, he would have been in no danger. Now he feels that we would not have been in any danger at this moment at all. The trail mate could have built the fire. When he was not able to make the fire, the other person could have made the fire. Well, it was up to him to build the fire over again, and this second time there must be no failure. Now it is up to him whether to make the second fire, and if at all he is going to make another fire, there should be no failure at all, and there must be no failure. Even if he succeeded, he would most likely to lose some toes, and he realizes that if he is going to be successful in making the another fire, the second fire, still he will lose some of his fingers, some of his toes. His feet must be badly frozen by now, and there would be some time before the second fire was ready, and his feet must be badly frozen by now. It must have been totally frozen by now, and there would be some time before the second fire is ready, and instantly he would not be able to make the second fire at all. There would be some time is needed for him to make the second fire. So therefore he realizes that he would be losing some of his fingers. Such were his thoughts, but he did not sit and think them. He was busy all the time, they were passing through his mind. He made a new foundation for the fire, this time in the open, where no treacherous tree could blot it out. Next, he gathered dry grasses and tiny twigs from the high water flotsam. He could not bring his fingers together to pull them out, but he was able to gather them by handful. In this way, he got many rotten twigs and bits of green moss that were undesirable, but it was the best he could do. He worked methodically, even collecting an armful of the larger branches to be used later when the fire gathered enough strength. And all the while, the dog sat and watched him, a certain yearning wistfulness in its eyes, for it looked upon him as the fire provider, and the fire was slow in coming. Such were his thoughts. But he did not sit and think on them. He did not bother about to make the fire. That is up to him. And he feels now, even if he is able to make the second fire, some of his fingers will be totally lost. That was a feeling that was a thought which was going on in his mind. Such were his thoughts, but he did not sit and think over them. He was busy all the time, they were passing through the mind. Though such kind of thoughts were passing through the mind, he was busy in gathering the firewood so that he would be able to make another fire. He made a new foundation for the fire, this time in the open, where no treacherous tree could blot it out. Now he made a new foundation for the fire, and this time in the open. This time he made the foundation. He made it very clear that it is not under a tree at all. He made it under in the open, where no treacherous tree could blot it out, where no dangerous tree would be able to blot out the fire, to put out the fire. Next, he gathered dry grasses. Once the foundation is ready, he gathered dry grasses and tiny twigs, small pieces of firewood from the high water flotsam. Flotsam means the small pieces, maybe the fragments from the shipwreck. Suppose a shipwreck has taken place, and the pieces of wood that are the remaining pieces of the wood of the shipwreck is called the flotsam. So from the flotsam, he was able to get the dry grasses as well as tiny twigs. He could not bring his fingers together to pull them out. He was not able to bring the fingers together in order to pull them out. He is taking out the small pieces, the fragments from the shipwreck. He was not able to, because of the cold weather, as the fingers had gone totally numb, he was not able to collect them or gather them by the handful. In this way, he got many rotten twigs and bits of green moss that were undesirable. In this way, he collected the rotten twigs. Together with them, he collected the green moss. Moss means the grass that grow in the marshy land, maybe the fen. Yes, marshy grass, that is what is called the moss. So together with the twigs, he collected some green mosses that were undesirable, which was not required at all, because it will bring out only the adverse effect. The fire may not burn brightly at all when this green moss is placed into it. That is why the writer says bits of green moss that were undesirable, but it was the best he could do, but he had no other way. This was the only thing that he was able to do. He worked methodically. Still, he worked in an orderly way, methodically, even collecting an armful of large branches to be used later when the fire gathered strength. Everything in a systematic way he started doing it. Even collecting an armful of large branches, not only the twigs. He thought about when the fire burns brightly, he will be able to place into it the large pieces of wood, so that also the large branches to be used later when the fire gathered strength. Once the fire has gathered the strength, he would be able to make use of them. So everything he planned systematically, methodically. And all the while the dog sat watching him. The dog was going on observing the man. A certain yawning wistfulness, a kind of melancholic sadness in its eyes, but it was totally sad. That is what the writer uses here, yawning wistfulness. Yawning means melancholic, a kind of melancholic sadness. Melancholy itself brings out the meaning of sadness. So the writer wanted to give the stress over here, and therefore he says a certain yawning wistfulness, a kind of melancholic sadness in the eyes of the dog, for it looked upon the man as a fire provider. Because the dog always looked at the man as the fire provider, and the fire was slow in coming, and the man was not able to make the fire very easily. The dog wanted to get the warmth of the fire so easily, but the fire was, the writer says, and the fire was slow in coming, and that was the reason which made the dog extremely melancholic sadness. Let us stop for the day. We shall continue the rest in the next class. Once again, let me remind you to read up to where we have completed the portion. Thank you, and hope to meet you in the next class.